Would you return something valuable if you found it on the street, even if you had nothing to eat? This question opens the door to deep reflection and a true story that touched the hearts of thousands of people around the world. Imagine walking down the street, cold, hungry, and uncertain about what the future holds. Suddenly, before your eyes, a wallet full of cash, cards, and documents appears. What would you do in that moment? Would you keep it to try to meet your immediate needs, or would you return it to its rightful owner, even without receiving anything in return? This is the crossroads, a simple homeless man faced on an ordinary day, and the decision he made ended up transforming not only his life, but also the way the world saw him. This story begins seemingly simply, but quickly becomes a powerful lesson in honesty, compassion, and faith in humanity. The unexpected gesture of a man invisible to many became a living example that kindness still exists, even in the places where it's least expected. Have you ever experienced this, seen someone act so honestly and courageously that it made you rethink your own choices? Because what we're about to share here goes far beyond a simple act. It's about how one decision can create an impact that reverberates for generations. The homeless man in question had nothing. No shelter, no guarantees, no promise of a better future. He carried only his courage and a conscience that seemed greater than his own reality. When he found that wallet lying on the ground, he knew it was an opportunity. Perhaps the only chance to change his days of hunger and cold. But at the same time, it was also a silent test of character, a moment when the value of integrity spoke louder than any immediate need. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because this simple choice ended up touching thousands of people around the world. After all, in a society so often plagued by stories of corruption, selfishness, and a lack of empathy, an act of honesty from those who had the least became a true beacon of hope. The homeless man didn't hesitate. He chose to return the wallet to its owner. And it's precisely at this point that the story takes a moving turn, because the man's reaction to receiving his wallet back was so unexpected that it created a domino effect of kindness, reaching far more people than they could have imagined. Stay with me until the end, because this story isn't just about returning something lost. It's about how life sometimes presents us with situations that test our very essence. And when we choose the path of integrity, even when no one is looking, the universe finds ways to reward us beyond our wildest imagination. This isn't just a story about a homeless man, it's about each of us and the choices we make every day. Have you ever wondered to what extent our actions can inspire others? Can a simple gesture truly change someone's destiny? This story is living proof that it can. Because often the greatest heroes don't wear capes, don't appear in newspaper headlines, but are on the streets, on street corners, making silent decisions that resonate far beyond themselves. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject, because the way this story unfolded shows that kindness is capable of transforming lives and surprising even those who believe they have seen it all. And when we hear stories like these, it's impossible not to put ourselves in this man's shoes and reflect on what our own choices would be in the face of such an extreme situation. Perhaps you've been through something similar. Perhaps you felt that internal conflict between necessity and conscience, between what seems easiest and what's truly right. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far, because your voice is also part of this conversation. Each shared story can inspire others who are reading, creating a space for exchange, support, and hope. And since we're all on this journey together, searching for stories that restore our faith in humanity, I want to ask you for something simple, but it makes all the difference, like this video. It may seem like a small gesture, but every like shows YouTube that this content is valuable and helps bring this message of kindness to many more people. This is how this chain grows, not only through the stories we tell here, but through the engagement of those who believe that empathy can still transform the world. And if you feel that this type of content touches your heart and connects with your outlook on life, subscribe to the channel. This is much more than just pressing a button. It's a way to walk together, to build a community of people who believe that simple acts have the power to change destinies. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject because the wallet owner's unexpected reaction will show you how a gesture of honesty can trigger consequences that no one could foresee. And perhaps, as you follow this story, something within you is also being awakened. Because deep down, we've all witnessed or experienced moments when someone's honesty, courage, or kindness left a profound impression on us. It could have been a simple gesture, like someone helping you when you needed it most, or even a difficult choice you made that changed the course of your life. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. It could be a word, a memory, a personal experience. Your comment could become the reflection someone else needs to believe in kindness again. And look, when you like this video, it's not just another number appearing on the screen. This simple action shows YouTube that this type of content has value, and it allows this message of hope and transformation to reach many more people. It's a way to amplify the impact, to strengthen a chain that only grows when everyone does their part. And if you feel that this kind of story speaks to your heart, subscribe to the channel. This way, you ensure you'll continue receiving content that inspires, moves, and reminds us that there are still actions capable of changing everything. Your participation here is what makes this space exist and grow. That's why I say, every like, every subscription, every comment is like another brick in this collective construction of faith in humanity. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic because the wallet owner's reaction was not only surprising, it revealed a hidden truth about how our choices can trigger changes that go far beyond what we imagine. He was nameless to most of the people he passed on the streets. To some, he was just another face among many invisible ones. To others, a nuisance to be avoided with averted glances and hurried steps. But behind that weary gaze lay a life marked by silent struggles. And a story few would have the courage to face. The homeless man who stars in this narrative wasn't born there, on the cold asphalt and the discomfort of the sidewalks. He once had a home, felt the warmth of a full table, and dreamed like any of us. But life, with its unexpected twists and turns, led him down paths of loss, misunderstandings, and choices that ultimately pushed him to the margins of society. His routine reflected the hardships of survival, waking to the noise of the still sleepy city, scavenging for scraps of food in trash cans, competing with others for the attention of passers-by, who rarely offered more than crumbs. The cold of the nights seemed to penetrate not only his skin, but also his soul. His clothes, already worn and torn, were a reflection of his silent resistance. And yet there was a flame within him, small, almost imperceptible, but alive. It was the reminder of who he was, the knowledge that his dignity had not been completely erased. It's easy to think that someone in such a condition would have lost hope, but surprisingly, there was a kind of serenity about him. Perhaps it was resignation, perhaps it was faith in something greater. The truth is that his life, marked by daily challenges, had made him attentive to detail, observant of human behavior. He knew when a look was one of contempt or compassion. He knew from experience when he could trust someone. But what no one could have imagined was how that same life of deprivation would be the stage for a decision that would inspire millions. Those around him saw him as vulnerable, someone on the margins. But if they stopped for a moment to truly see him, they would see that he was a human being with emotions, memories, and even an unbreakable code of values. And it is precisely at this point that his story gains depth. Because even without anything, even without the bare minimum to survive with dignity, he carried within him something that no amount of money could buy: the ability to be honest, even when the temptation to choose otherwise seemed the easier path. Day after day, he faced not only the hunger that gripped his stomach, but also the silent judgment of those who crossed his path. He had heard cutting words, been the target of distrust and even contempt, and yet he never let these wounds completely define who he was. On the contrary, with each dawn, he chose to resist despair, to resist the idea that he was defeated, to resist the temptation to let his kindness fade. This detail, often invisible to outsiders, was the foundation of the strength he never knew he possessed. Throughout life, we all face moments when we must choose between what is right and what is expedient. In his case, this choice was even more intense because at every corner, with every gesture of refusal, he was reminded of his position in society. The absence of basic necessities, a roof over his head, a bed, a plate of hot food, placed him in a reality many of us can't even imagine. And yet this very lack taught him to value details that would go unnoticed by those living in comfort. A piece of bread was a feast. A look of respect was a rare gift. A simple good night could warm his heart more than any old blanket. This man, invisible to many, would become the protagonist of a story that would make the world pause and reflect. Because the day he found that wallet on the ground, he wasn't just a homeless person. He was a reflection of humanity in its rawest form, carrying both vulnerability and strength. He knew that inside that wallet was more than just bills and cards. There was trust at stake, a chance to prove to himself and others that it was still possible to choose the path of integrity. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject because when we understand the reality that shaped this man, we can perceive the greatness of the decision he made in the face of an opportunity that could have changed his life immediately, but which ended up generating a transformation much greater than he could ever imagine. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The night was especially cold. The kind where the wind seems to pierce your skin, reach your bones, and make your entire body shiver, as if the air itself carried an invisible weight. The city lights, even bright, didn't provide warmth. They merely reflected on the damp asphalt, creating small pools of brightness that seemed more like life's ironies, beauty amidst pain. He walked slowly, as he did every night, not out of laziness or discouragement, but because his body no longer had the same strength it once had. His stomach ached with hunger, and his tired feet seemed to carry the weight of all the days when hope had failed. The streets were busy, but no one saw him. People came and went in a hurry, faces glued to their cell phone screens, preoccupied with their own worlds. And it was precisely in this scene, amidst the haste and indifference, that something caught his attention. On the ground, almost at the corner of a sidewalk, was a wallet, dark, leather. It was a little wet, perhaps from the light drizzle that had been falling since early evening. He approached slowly. He looked around. No one seemed to notice, no curious glances, no voices calling out his name. Only the sound of passing cars and the rustling of windswept leaves. He knelt carefully. He picked up the wallet with both hands, as if holding something sacred. It wasn't heavy, but what was? Inside could be decisive. He opened it slowly, and there they were, neatly folded bills, several cards, personal documents, a name, an address, and of course money. More money than he'd seen in weeks of begging. For a second, time seemed to stand still. In that instant, he had a choice that could change everything. It was an opportunity that many in his situation might consider a gift from fate. With that money, he could feed himself well for several days, buy clean clothes, perhaps even pay for shelter for a while. It was the kind of chance that, for someone in such a vulnerable situation, represented immediate relief. And yet, along with this temptation, also came a reminder of who he was, that, even with nothing, he still carried within him something greater than hunger, integrity. His mind seemed to be waging a silent battle. On one side, his survival instinct screamed. On the other, his conscience whispered. And this whisper was louder than any external noise. He sat there on the curb, wallet in hand, and watched the movement of the street. Each person who passed was a reminder that the object didn't belong to him, that there was someone, somewhere, who might be desperately searching for it. And then he thought, if it were me, if it were my identity, my only way to prove who I am, what would I feel? It wasn't a quick decision. It was slow, considered, layered, as if he were facing a moral crossroads that tested not only his honesty, but his very worldview. And even though he had every reason to choose the easy way out, he couldn't, because there was something inside him that told him that doing the right thing, even without applause, even without witnesses, was still the most honorable path. And it was with this thought that he stood up. With his wallet firmly in his hands, he began walking with a different purpose. He didn't yet know exactly how he would deliver it. He didn't know if the owner would receive it with gratitude or distrust. But he knew he had to try. And in that moment, something shifted within him. It wasn't just about returning an object. It was about reaffirming his own identity, about proving to himself that he was still a man of principles, even if the world had taken everything from him. This hidden truth, that greatness lies not in how much you have, but in how you act when no one is looking, was what guided him in that moment. As he walked, his thoughts wandered. He thought about life, the decisions that had led him. There, the opportunities he'd missed and the few he'd had, and paradoxically, that cold, lonely night was beginning to become one of the most important of his journey, not because of his wallet, but because of his choice. Because in that moment, he was in control. And he chose kindness. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because understanding the impact of this decision is fundamental to understanding not only the personal transformation he experienced, but also how such a simple gesture was able to generate a domino effect that touched thousands of people around the world. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. He took a deep breath, feeling the cold that seemed to cut through his skin, and at the same time the pressure of a decision that could change his life in that instant. The wallet weighed heavily in his hands, but not because of the leather or the money inside. It weighed heavily because of the responsibility, because of the choice he carried. He knew what that money meant. Hot meals, dry clothes, maybe even a few days away from the hard sidewalks. It was a chance for relief, a respite from the pain that accompanied him every day. But along with the temptation came the reminder of what, even in poverty, no one could take from him: his character. How many times had he been judged solely by his appearance? How many doors had been closed simply because he was invisible to society, a man with no address, no position, nothing to offer but himself? He could have given in to the logic of survival, could have convinced himself that the money was a gift from life to balance the injustices he faced. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. It wasn't his, and taking it would be like stealing not just from someone else, but from himself. It would be giving up the last thing that still held his dignity alive: honesty. It was then that he realized something profound, almost like a silent revelation. True wealth lies not in bills or coins, but in what we Build within ourselves. Money could buy food for a few days, but it could not buy the peace of mind that comes from truth. He was faced with a choice between immediate need and eternal wholeness. And in that moment, he decided he would not sell his soul for the price of a few bills. This decision wasn't easy. His body screamed for sustenance. Hunger burned like a fire in his gut. But his mind, guided by an unshakable moral code, told him it was time to choose who he wanted to continue being. With each step he took as he walked in search of the wallet's owner, the cold seemed to ease. It was as if the decision to act justly had lit an inner flame capable of warming him more than any old blanket. This scene leads us to reflect on how the decisions we make in silence, when no one is looking, are precisely the ones that shape who we truly are. How many times have you faced choices like these? Situations where the easy way out seemed tempting, but something inside you said, "No, I need to do what's right." It's in these moments that we reveal not what we have, but who we truly are. And herein lies the beauty of this story. His decision wasn't about what he would gain, but about what he didn't want to lose, his essence. He didn't know if he would be rewarded or ignored, if he would be seen as a hero or just an invisible homeless man returning something he'd found. Still, he persevered. Because the hidden truth is that honesty doesn't depend on recognition. It is an intimate victory, a silent transformation that echoes in the heart. As he walked, each step carried more than a simple movement through the city. It carried the weight of a symbol, an act that spoke louder than 1,000 words. In that moment, he wasn't just a hungry man returning a wallet. He was living proof that character isn't lost in poverty, that dignity isn't erased by exclusion, that kindness can flourish even in the most arid terrain. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the wallet owner's reaction when he received back what he thought was lost not only brought an unexpected outcome, but also revealed how seemingly small decisions can have grand consequences, capable of impacting lives and transforming destinies. Comment there? That makes sense to me. When the homeless man finally found a way to return the wallet, there was no expectation of applause or desire for reward on his face. He was prepared at most for a simple thank you, or even to be ignored, as had happened so many times in his life. But what followed was a moment that seemed to suspend time. The wallet's owner, a businessman accustomed to dealing with haste, commitments, and material values, was completely paralyzed upon seeing the object in the hands of someone society often chooses to overlook. First, surprise took over. He opened his wallet, checked his documents, the money intact, and his eyes filled with something that wasn't just relief, but a shock of reality. It was as if, in that instant, all my concepts about trust, risk, and even who was worth seeing were turned upside down. The silence that followed between them was charged with emotion, as if they both knew this wasn't just a return, but a meeting arranged by life to expose a hidden truth. Honesty has no fixed address. The owner couldn't hide his emotion. Gratitude surged almost uncomfortably, knowing that any words would seem insignificant compared to the grand gesture before him. It was then that tears, which he rarely allowed himself to shed in public, began to flow. He wasn't just facing the return of his belongings, but a mirror that showed how much, amidst so many possessions, he had forgotten that the greatest value of all lies in human integrity. The transformation of that moment was almost palpable. People around began to notice the scene. Some approached curiously, others remained silent, witnessing this unlikely encounter between two worlds so distant, yet united by the power of an honest choice. It was as if the entire street had stopped to record not just a reunion between man and wallet, but a clash of mindsets, a collective invitation to reflect on justice, dignity, and compassion. And yet, something deeper was about to happen. The wallet's owner, still overcome with emotion, felt that simply saying thank you wouldn't be enough. This wasn't an ordinary situation, and he knew a simple gesture of gratitude wouldn't do justice to the impact he'd received. He looked at the homeless man, as if seeing for the first time someone who carries within them not only hardships, but a quiet greatness capable of shaking certainties and revealing hidden corners of life that are rarely illuminated. It's at this point that the story begins to take on even more surprising tones, because his reaction didn't stop at astonishment or gratitude. What he did from that point on would become a turning point capable of reverberating not only between the two of them, but echoing as a revelation to thousands of people around the world. An unexpected gesture driven by a mix of emotion, awareness, and a desire for transformation was about to be born. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject because what this man did after this encounter goes far beyond a simple act of gratitude. It was something no one could have imagined, and it would forever change that homeless man's journey. Right there. I'm on this journey too. He could have simply thanked him, given him some change, and gone on with his hurried life, as so many would. But something inside him wouldn't allow that encounter to be treated as just another coincidence. The gesture of honesty he'd received had shaken his perception of the world and lit a light he couldn't ignore. The homeless man, with calloused hands and a humble gaze, had returned the wallet intact, and this simple yet momentous act became a turning point for the owner. It was in that moment that the unexpected gesture was born, a response that stemmed not from a sense of obligation, but from a genuine transformation in the man's heart. He took a deep breath, looked around, and noticed the curious gazes fixed on the scene. People wanted to see how the story would end, and deep down, even he knew he needed to do something bigger, something that would truly capture the magnitude of that moment. So instead of saying goodbye, the man placed his hand on the homeless man's shoulder and said, his voice breaking, "You have no idea how much you've changed my day, or rather my life, and I can't let that go unnoticed." That's when everything began to take a different turn. He decided not only to thank him, but to offer a concrete opportunity. He asked the man's name, wanted to know his story, and upon hearing the details of a life marked by loss, injustice, and decisions that led him to the cold sidewalk, he realized that the narrative could change course from that point on. Without thinking twice, he offered him a job at his own company. Not a favor disguised as compassion, but a real chance to start over, to rise from the invisibility in which society had relegated him. The impact was immediate. The homeless man took a while to believe it was true. His mind, accustomed to rejection and closed doors, resisted accepting that anyone could see value in his life at that moment. His teary eyes, trembling hands, and rapid breathing betrayed the mixture of disbelief and hope gripping his heart. The crowd around him, who had been watching in silence until then, began to grow emotional. Some filmed, others discreetly wiped away tears, aware that they were witnessing a rare revelation, confirmation that kindness, when cultivated, has the power to transform destinies. But the gesture didn't stop there. The wallet's owner went beyond what anyone expected. He took the man to a hotel that very night, ensuring he had a clean bed, a hot shower, and a decent meal. For the first time in a long time, the homeless man felt the weight of marginalization give way to a sense of belonging. He was no longer just an invisible body on the sidewalk. He was someone who had been seen, recognized, and valued. This act had an impact not only on the lives of the two, but on everyone who witnessed it. A few days later, the story took to social media and spread around the world as a testament to how small gestures can open doors to great transformations. And herein lies the hidden truth that many overlook. Kindness doesn't end with the gesture itself. It creates a ripple effect, reaching people who weren't even directly involved. The climax of this encounter wasn't just the job offer or temporary shelter, but the psychological and emotional impact it had. The businessman, previously hardened by responsibilities, discovered that his greatest decision wasn't financial, but human. And the homeless man, who until that moment had been living on the edge of survival, found in honesty an unexpected key to his own transformation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because what began as a simple return of a wallet became a turning point capable of teaching the world that generosity, courage, and compassion are not just isolated virtues, but forces that change entire realities. Right there, this makes sense to me. News of that gesture wasn't confined to that busy intersection or the circle of people who witnessed the encounter. The next day, an amateur video recorded by one of the onlookers began circulating on social media. Within hours, it had racked up thousands of views. Within 2 days, it was featured in online newspapers and on television programs, both local and international. It was as if the entire world thirsted for an example that would restore faith in simple values, yet so often forgotten in the fast pace of modern life. Honesty, compassion, and solidarity. And that's exactly what happened. Social media became a platform for reflection. People from different countries commented emotionally, sharing their own experiences or confessing that they had lost hope in humanity, but that this story had rekindled their flame. Hashtags began to emerge, spontaneous campaigns were created, and even public figures, politicians, artists, and spiritual leaders shared the episode as a symbol that there are still reasons to believe in good. The hidden truth that emerged was that, amid so much news of tragedy and injustice, people were hungry to believe again in simple gestures that change destinies. The story garnered headlines like "The Man Who Had Nothing But Gave It All Back" or "The Millionaire Who Learned His Greatest Lesson from a Homeless Man." These headlines captured attention because they revealed a powerful paradox. Someone devoid of material resources displaying the richness of character that many with financial abundance forget to practice. It was this reversal of expectations that made an immediate impact. It wasn't just a tale of kindness, but a revelation about the human mindset, about how decisions made in times of trial can resonate far beyond what we imagine. The ripple effect was impressive. In underprivileged communities, people began organizing small acts of solidarity, inspired by the story. Schools used the story in ethics and citizenship classes, encouraging children to reflect on honesty. Companies created internal social engagement campaigns, showing employees that giving back generously is a real path to collective transformation. Soon, the episode no longer belonged solely to the two protagonists, but became part of a global journey, a symbol of how individual decisions can impact the masses. Behind the scenes of this movement, something even more profound was happening. Many people who watched the video confessed that they began to see those living on the streets differently. What was previously invisible, bodies lying on sidewalks, hands outstretched asking for help, was now perceived differently. The revelation was clear. Each of those faces carried a story, a hidden truth that the world insists on ignoring, and the collective mindset began to shift, albeit subtly, from this example. The power of storytelling also played a decisive role. Unlike other news stories that quickly fade, this story found room to thrive because it touched the human heart directly. It didn't speak of cold statistics or lifeless numbers, but of real people, of choices made in the silence of the night, of the impact. Born of an unexpected gesture, journalism, normally laden with tragedy, for a few days gave way to hope, and this spread like wildfire because it was exactly what people needed to hear. The previously anonymous homeless man became a recognized figure. Interviews were conducted, speaking engagements were invited, and even support organizations reached out to him to share his experience as a testament to transformation. It wasn't just a personal journey that was at stake, but a universal reminder that kindness, when practiced, yields unimaginable results. The wallet's owner, in turn, was celebrated not for his money, but for his decision to see value in someone society had forgotten. And this, perhaps, was the most powerful lesson, realizing that we all have the chance to choose how we respond to life. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the impact didn't stop at headlines or shares. It quietly entered the minds of thousands, perhaps millions of people, prompting new decisions, renewed gestures, and a transformation that can't be measured in clicks or likes. Right there, I'm on this journey too. That man's life, previously defined by the solitude of the streets and the daily struggle for survival, took on unexpected twists after that act of honesty. The simple act of returning a lost wallet, an object that could easily have become a passport to a few days of food and some relief, ended up becoming the key to opening doors he never imagined he'd walk through. It's remarkable how life seems to choose specific moments to show us that the most difficult decisions, those that seem to have no immediate reward, often carry within them the seed of true transformation. And that's exactly what happened to him. People began to see the homeless man differently, no longer as someone invisible, blending into the urban landscape, but as a living example of character and integrity. The story gained traction not only because he returned something that wasn't his, but because his decision was made amid absolute scarcity. He had nothing, yet he chose to maintain his dignity. This attitude touched hearts and made many reflect on their own choices. How many of us, in comfortable situations, fail to act honestly in the small things of everyday life? How many forget that even in the details, truth matters? Over time, opportunities began to emerge. People inspired by his attitude began to mobilize, offering support, employment, and a place to stay. He began to experience something he had long lost, a sense of belonging. He was no longer just a nameless man wandering the streets, but someone with a powerful story capable of inspiring an entire community. This new phase didn't happen overnight, but every step, every gesture of support received was proof that honesty bears fruit when practiced authentically. And the most beautiful thing of all is that the transformation wasn't just material. There was a profound internal shift that shaped his mindset and opened space for a new vision of himself and the world. He stopped seeing himself merely as a victim of circumstances and began to see his journey as a learning process marked by decisions that revealed his true essence. This process showed that often the greatest wealth lies not in what one possesses, but in what one carries within one's heart. The impact was also felt by those who closely followed this change. Seeing someone rise again after so much suffering, simply by choosing the path of honesty, made many believe in humanity again. The hidden truth of this story is that deep down, we all seek hope, examples that prove there is still genuine goodness in the world. And there, in this man who was once ignored by the masses, emerged a story capable of rekindling the faith of thousands. This transformation, however, was not without its challenges. There were suspicious looks, doubts about his intentions, comments that it might just be a passing fad. But each act of perseverance, each conscious decision to move forward, reinforced that this was not just an isolated moment. It was a journey in progress, a revelation that when mindset changes, destiny follows. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic because true transformation isn't limited to the life of the protagonist. It spreads like waves, reaching people in unexpected places and creating a domino effect of impact and inspiration. When someone decides to live with integrity, even in adversity, the message conveyed goes far beyond the act itself. It becomes a silent invitation for others to do the same. And perhaps this is the greatest gift this story offers us. The reminder that a simple act can change not only a life, but open pathways to an entire web of revelations and hope. A seemingly small gesture can light up darkened hearts and awaken the courage to believe in a better future. Comment: that makes sense to me, because I'm sure that at some point in your journey, you've also felt the weight of a decision that could transform everything. It's impressive how a single scene can carry within itself such a profound truth that it resonates within each of us. When we look at the simple gesture of that homeless man, someone who had nothing but his own dignity, we realize it wasn't just about returning a wallet. It was a silent yet powerful message that hope still lives among us. That, despite the hardships, justice can be born from the most unlikely hands. And above all, that faith in humanity is not a utopia, but a choice that needs to be reaffirmed every day. Observing this attitude, we are led to reflect on our own decisions, those we make behind the scenes of life when no one is looking. Because it is in these silent moments that character is revealed and real impact is made. This episode awakens in us a sense of solidarity that goes beyond the immediate. It reminds us that on some level we are all connected, as if we were part of a vast, invisible network that unites us through compassion, care, and mutual need. When one link in this chain chooses to act with integrity, the hidden truth is revealed. All the others are strengthened. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson of this story. It's not just about one man and his decision, but a universal reflection, capable of touching those who have never gone hungry, who have never been homeless, but who, at some point, have felt the weight of choosing between what is right and what is easier. And it is in this contrast that we see the beauty of honesty. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because behind the emotion we feel lies something even more transformative, the mindset of those who believe that acts of kindness have the power to change destinies. This kind of attitude creates a silent but lasting impact that spreads like a ripple in calm waters, reaching places we never imagined. It's a ripple effect that awakens inner revelations, changes our decisions, and calls us to live with greater purpose. Think for a moment. How many times have you been touched by someone's unexpected action? How many times has a small gesture rekindled hope within you? These are the moments that make the human journey worthwhile, because they remind us that we are not alone. The story of the homeless person isn't just about him or about the person who lost their wallet. It's about all of us. It's about understanding that hope, justice, faith, and solidarity aren't distant or unattainable concepts, but realities that can emerge on every corner, in every encounter, in every choice we make. It's about the certainty that deep down, we all need each other, and it's precisely this truth that unites us as humanity. And perhaps that's why, when we hear stories like these, we feel a warmth in our hearts, a kind of silent call that invites us to live with more empathy. Comment there. That makes sense to me. It's impossible to hear a story like this and not put yourself in that man's shoes. Imagine yourself in the same situation, alone, cold, with nothing to eat, and suddenly finding something that could, for a moment, ease all your pain. The temptation to take the easy way out would be there, whispering in your ear. But still, he decided to act with integrity. And this choice not only changed the course of his own life, but also lit a flame of hope in thousands of people around the world. This is the invisible power of honesty. It transcends barriers, crosses borders, and reaches hearts that may never have experienced anything similar, but that understand the depth of this gesture. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because true transformation lies not only in the act itself, but in the mindset it awakens in all of us. When we see someone who had every reason to give up faith in humanity act in a contrary way, we are confronted with our own conscience. That silent question arises: what would I do if I were in their shoes? And it is in this confrontation that great revelations are born, those that not only affect our present decisions, but also shape how we see the future. This story shows us that there are hidden truths that we often forget in the hustle and bustle of life. Kindness may seem fragile, but it has a huge impact when practiced. Justice may seem slow, but it always finds a way to manifest itself. And solidarity, even when born in a single gesture, has the power to create waves of transformation that reach far beyond what we imagine. Therefore, the lesson here goes beyond a simple act of returning a wallet. It's about understanding that by choosing honesty, we open invisible doors, both for ourselves and for those around us. This is where the deeper reflection comes in. Perhaps the greatness of life lies behind the scenes, in what we do when no one applauds us, in the choices that don't yield immediate recognition but build a silent legacy. And this legacy, sooner or later, finds a way to be revealed. The man who was once ignored by the crowd, who lived on the margins of society, became a symbol of character and courage, not because you sought it, but because you simply did what was right. And that is the essence of true inspiration, showing without words that we can still believe in human kindness. And you, what would you do in this man's shoes? What decision would you make if you were faced with this crossroads? Leave the phrase, "honesty always wins," in the comments. This isn't just a record. It's a movement that reinforces the message this story carries. Like this video if this reflection touched you in any way, and subscribe to the channel to continue following more real stories that move and inspire, because it's through this community that we can spread even more hope and transformation. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. You know, if you've made it this far with me, it's because this message also spoke to your heart in some way, and that's precisely why it makes perfect sense to continue this journey together. If this content brought you value, if it opened space for a different reflection in your day, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss the next stories that, in the same way, can transform your outlook on life. And I want to propose something special. Leave the phrase here in the comments. I'm with you until the end, just so I know you were there until the very last moment, and that this message truly resonated with you. It's your participation that creates this sense of community and makes it all even more worthwhile. Oh, and don't forget to like it too. This simple gesture strengthens the channel and ensures more people have access to content that inspires hope. And since you're here, there's no need to stop now. There's a video right here that complements this reflection, and I'm sure it will touch you too. Click and stay with me there.